Hello and welcome. It's me, Percita, and this is Percitas Paradox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate you, your time, and effort in finding me on this thing called YouTube. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate you. And if you are an OG, you know the drill. Thank you so much, as always, for your continued support. So today, I wanted to come on and give a better definition to you and to myself in describing this thing called self-care. You hear it a lot. Everyone's talking about it in one form or another. But I wanted to talk about the differences between what self-care actually means, because I honestly believe that that's not something that's discussed. And I wanted to ask you simply, what are you doing to personalize your self-care? So you may say, okay, Priscilla, seriously. What is it? What do you mean personalize my self-care? Well, first let's talk about what self-care is. It really falls under two different tiers. One is what I would call the moment of self-care, and the other would be self-care in its long-term effect over your life, right? So you want to know that you want to make sure that there's a balance in your life in regards to how you move in both, because not everything would fall into something that's going to motivate you. When people say, yeah, I'm all into self-care, all about loving me, it doesn't always feel great. And that statement and those thoughts don't always motivate you to what self-care really is as a totality. So the first thing that we would talk about is that when you think of self-care, that would be in the moment, that would be an example of something like taking a nap in the day, or keeping yourself in a position of taking small breaks, or lighting a candle, or stepping away and maybe making a quick phone call to a friend and just chatting really quickly, or a quick lunch with someone that you haven't spoken to, something along those lines, right? And something that would be self-care long term, right, would be something along the lines of, yet again, exercising, or your meditation and the way that you sleep, the way that you communicate with others, if you are around an environment that's positive, and so on and so forth. Things think about that would actually strengthen your mental and physical being and capacities, right? So when we think about self-care, we don't always think about the long term as something that is self-care, because there's no immediate gratification. Those things that I talked about, the exercise, the eating well, the drinking the water, things like that, that's not something that you immediately see. But it is still, and should be still, identified as self-care. Typically, when we think of self-care, especially a female, right, we're thinking about the massage, we're thinking about shopping, we're thinking about anything else than things that are going to hurt. So notice how the self-care things that are long-term, you actually don't feel typically good in doing them in the process of needing to get them done. So you know that exercise is great for you, but nobody really wants to exercise, or nobody really wants to actually eat healthy. But I want you to really try to grasp the idea that the balance of self-care is key. And there's not a lot of that can be expressed, because so many times we think of self-care, like I said, more in the short term, the immediate gratification of what that would look like. And that's where I think we mess up. So when I say we want to personalize it, I want you to take the word self out and actually put your name there and call it what it is. So in my case, it would be Percitas Care. And what does Percitas Care look like? Or you really have to personalize it to make it efficient in your life. Otherwise, you'll find yourself doing things like comparing yourself to what others do for their self-care, and how their, overall lifestyle or look of what self-care should be is. Which is why I'm saying we can get so caught up on just what the world tells us we should be doing. It's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be approached differently from everyone. So I want you to think about, how do you personalize it? Well, one, you're personalizing it by doing the things we talk about all the time. You're living life in an authentic manner, which means you're really paying attention to yourself and no one else. You're really having this conversation with yourself. So you have to know you in order to actually create the best self-care. And that sometimes just takes nothing more than the effort in spending the time with yourself. Small moments in your day where you really sit and allow yourself to dream again and to imagine again and to believe in yourself again without all of the pretenses of what really looks factual, meaning what's in your face. To allow yourself to do that gives forth this idea of self-care because you're not beating yourself up. You're not being in a space of being the pessimist to yourself. And that's crucially important in regards to how you want to personalize it. You also want to take the time to really jot down things that maybe you want to experience. And maybe you feel like they're out of reach. Still jot them down. Everything that I'm talking about in 2022 is really writing things down. There's something about writing something down that just gives forth an idea of remembrance. And I want you to remember yourself again and think back on when you didn't feel like stresses in life was getting in the way and what made you happy. And maybe going and revisiting some of those things. Those are all things that you can do in the short term of it, because the long-term self-care, the exercise and the self-awareness with what your body is intaking and not, and how you sleep and your interactions with others is something that you can master over a long period of time, because it is a long-term self-care attribute. So if you can just take the time to really listen to what I'm saying, go back, rewind, and really understand that self-care is a two-part scenario. There's an immediate gratification and there's a long-term gratification, and they're not one and the same. Some of those characteristics can cross over, but they're not one and the same. And even though the long-term stuff does not feel good and it doesn't always motivate you, understand that it is equally as important as the short, instant gratificational things of like having a dessert or, like I said, having a quick massage or going shopping can give you. So be very real with yourself while personalizing what those things can be and create a synergy so that your mind, body, and spirit understand how to create the best self-care habits and routines for you to be the best you can be. So I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate this opportunity to come and tell you that today. If you have been with me this far, right? I mean, be so kind as to like, share, and comment. Hit me in the comments and tell me, again, some things that you're doing to create a synergy of what we just talked about. And how are you personalizing it? How does your personalized self-care really work? And how long have you been doing it? Has it been effective? Have you made changes because of the new year? Hit me in the comments. I'd love to hear all that stuff. In the meantime and in between times, I'm going to tell you to do what I always tell you to do, which is live life authentic. I greatly appreciate you, and always, always know that I am here for you if you need me. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.